If you're listening to this podcast and you have ideas on how you want to express your student voice, well, I would also say you should join Echo. But yeah, just comment and let us know. St. Louis Park Public Schools sees,
inspires,
and empowers each student to achieve academic excellence
and live their brilliance in a racially equitable learning environment
that centers student voice and experience
to energize and enhance the spirit of our community.
Welcome to the St. Louis Park Echoes Mission Series podcast. Each week in this limited series, we explore one aspect of the St. Louis Park Public Schools mission statement.
This week, we explore what it means to center student voice.
We're your hosts, Lucy Scheid
and Morgan Griefey.
Please join us for our discussion on what it means to actually listen to students.
The first question that we have is, where is the student voice being heard?
I think that student voice is it's heard around the school, but at the same time it's not. I feel like a lot of times teachers try really hard to ensure that student voices are heard, but it can also be a struggle to make sure that everyone is heard and everyone's input is put in equally.
I agree. I feel like they try really hard in implementing so many things to make sure we get our input on many topics, and I feel like most of the time they're implemented very well, but at the same time, with a lot of things including the block schedule next year, I think that's where our voices got a little lost.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I know that there's students on this, I think it's the school board, to help make sure that student voices are heard, but at the same time no student really wants block schedules. So I feel like there's ways that student voices trying to make sure that they're heard, but at the same time ignoring the student voices when students reach out or are against something that the school wants.
I also wrote a story just a little bit ago about the school board and how they're inviting some students to talk with them on topics revolving around the school. And I think that was a really great idea to get students onto the board and just let them or hear what they have to say.
Yeah, I agree. I feel it's not a super talked about thing. And I think, was it recent, people were applying to be on it, right?
Yeah.
And that was a really big deal, but I just feel now it's the hype about it is down, and it's not a super big deal anymore, when I feel it should be, because it's student voice is what's gonna help our school be great. I have a question.
Okay.
How are students / teachers / leaders creating pathways for voices and really making sure that students have a path to speak their truth in their voice?
Well, I feel one way that they've always tried to implement student voices is with those student engagement surveys, where you can fill out what you are thinking about with the teacher in the class so far, and just what they could improve on to help you succeed. I think that's a good way, but also not the best way they could go about it, because I feel a lot of students just find that survey very long and repetitive, and they feel they're not going to actually get that much out of it. I feel we need more face-to-face contact.
Yeah, I agree. And I remember we've done these student engagement surveys since we were in elementary school, and I remember it was a thing in elementary school to just click through it as fast as you could. And
yeah.
I feel that's not such a big thing in high school, but it's still it's about one teacher. It's I'm sure students have a lot of opinions, but not that many ways to express it. I also feel a lot of times students are scared to speak their truth, because it's high school. You're scared of what other people are gonna think about your voice, so it's hard to really express what you want to say. And I feel that there should be more resources that make sure that students are able to say what they want, because students have a lot of great ideas, but a lot of times they're just kept in their brains because they're too scared.
Another question that I have written down was, how are these voices heard outside the classroom walls? And Well, I feel like we touched on this a little bit with like the students being invited to the school board. I hate to like keep going back to the topic of the block schedule, but I feel like so many people feel a strong way about it, but there's like not a real way to get their opinions out there. And even if there is, I feel like students did put their opinion out there, and like, I don't know, it's hard for me to explain.
Yeah, I know it's like not a sensitive topic, but a topic that like honestly not a lot of people want block schedule. And like I feel like if you talk to pretty much any student, like most students are like strongly against it, and the ones who aren't strongly against it just like don't really care that much. But most students are strongly against it, and me personally, like I'm also against it, and I have like my reasonings. But it's like there's not like, I feel like there's not a person that I could go up to and talk to, like to just be like, I don't like want to do that. And also I'd be scared to do that because I feel like it's like already obviously like decided. So it's like my voice, it feels like my voice doesn't matter in this case. But bringing that back to like how students, or how these like student voices are heard outside the classroom walls, like I feel like there are opportunities for students to be leaders and like have their voice. Like I know in like sports, like students are captains and students are leaders and students are like able to have their like opinions and stuff. So I feel like being heard outside of the like just the classroom, like there's lots of like ways that students can like speak their voice, but I feel like we need to bring more of that into the school because like students need more like opportunities to speak their like truths inside of school.
I feel like it's just a very like, it's more intimidating to like speak your voice inside of like these buildings because you just never know if you're gonna get in trouble just because of your opinion. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's like I don't know. I feel like I've already touched on this, but like a lot of students are like scared, you know, like, or not scared, but just like don't think that their opinion is going to be heard and think that their opinion and their voice is going to matter. And I feel like that's something like this is in our mission like our mission statement, our mission series or whatever, like is student voice. So like the fact that like a lot of students feel like their voices like aren't necessarily being heard is like really sad and disappointing because that's literally part of our school's mission statement is to be able to like have students speak their truth. So I feel like we're kind of like repeating the same thing, but like it's just like we need more resources for students to be able to speak their voice and like truly feel like they're being heard, because even if these resources are like implemented in our school, like we need to like staff members and stuff need to follow up on it so that students know that like when they speak their voice, like when student voice like is actually being heard. Another question is how are student experiences taken into account when decisions are made? Like, do you think there was like, again, block schedule, like do you think that they were taking student experiences into block schedule? Because I feel like our traditional schedule has been working pretty well, but like do you think that they were like thinking about student experience? Like,
yeah, I'm just like really interested in like, or like I want to know all the factors that like led them into making this decision, and I want to know like if they talked, like how many students did they actually talk to and like listen to before making this decision, because it is a big decision. And like for us, we're going into our senior year, which is like the biggest year of high school. I'm just like, and I feel like they haven't really like touched on like the topic of like what we did to make sure your voices were heard. Like I feel like I haven't. Mm-hmm. Like I feel like, I don't know.
Yeah, and again, like there's not like, yeah, like I feel like they didn't talk to many students, and like there's not a lot of places for students to speak of their experience unless like directly talked to by like a teacher. But I don't know how often teachers are going around and like actually asking for students' opinions. And like in our photo gallery, like we have examples of like some student voice. Like I feel like out of like all the schools, I feel like our school is like more open to hearing student voice, but at the same time it's just like there's so much more that they could be doing, and I feel like one of those things would be like truly like, I don't even know, like not exactly like sending out a link for students to put in their like opinions, but like having like ensuring that more teachers are like going up and like asking students and like truly like taking in students like decisions and experiences on whatever like issues that like come up. Because I know like when the block schedule like decision came out, like I was like shocked, and I remember like texting my friends about it, and like none of us really knew that this was gonna happen. And it's like where do we play a part in this, like as students, if this is like our experience too? And I'm sure it's like a money thing, and I'm sure there's like a lot of other decisions that play into this, but And I know this is, like, a big topic that we talk about a lot, and I'm sure other, like, mission series, like, relate back to block schedule because that's just, like, one of the biggest things that's going on in our school right now. So that's why it's, like, a really big deal. And, like, I just feel like student voice wasn't heard for that. Yeah, I mean, that's a good example of student voice. Like, I feel like our school is open to making new clubs and, like, students are leaders of clubs. But obviously that's, like, outside of school, and it's, like, being, like, I'm, like, captain of the Nordic team, but, like, that doesn't, like, I have my voice there, but that doesn't really, like, tie back to school in any way. So I just feel like having opportunities like that at school is, like, really important, like, where students are able to be leaders, and I feel like there could be more opportunities for that. Like, I know that there's, like, isn't there, like, clubs that are, like, about students being leaders? Pretty sure there's clubs like that, but, like, I just feel like that's more important, and, like...
Yeah, I think clubs is, like, such a big part of our school and, like, what makes our school so great. Like, one of the newer clubs, like the zine club.
Oh, yeah.
We actually took a picture of the zines for our gallery, but it was really cool to see just, like, how they get their voice out there in, like, their form. I think the zines are, like, a great way to, like, spread information or showcase their art. Like, I just think that was a really cool club.
Yeah, I agree with that. And also, like, I know we're, like, in Echo, but I feel like a club like Echo is a way for students to express their voice, because, like, we get to write our opinions on so many different, like, topics, and we have so many different sections. Like, I feel like that's important, and I feel like more students need experience like that. I joined Echo just because, like, I didn't even know the difference between Echo and Echo One at the time, but I just joined because I was, like, I thought it would be cool, and now I really get to see how important it is to have, like, a student newspaper and be able to, like, hear many different student voices, and that's why it's so important to, like, interview different students, and, like, because, like, I feel like the student clubs are the ones doing the most to, like, get student voice out. Like, Echo One, like, they interview lots of students for the yearbook, and, like, the zine club, they get to write their own opinions and, like, set it out in the hallway for other students to read. So I feel like also at the same time, while it's important for, like, our school to hear student voices, it's also important for students to hear other student voices.
Yeah, I agree. I think me being able to, like, interview and, like, cover all these topics about our school and, like, just getting to, like, learn more in depth about what's going on around our school, I'm just, like, I'm more aware of many of the things going on, and I don't know,
Another question is, do decision makers take into account the voice of our students? This is, like, really similar, but do you think, like, when they're sitting making decisions for our school, do you think that they're really taking into account student voice, even though, like, it's definitely part of our mission statement, but do you think that they're truly, like, taking into account student voice?
Well, I've been to one school board meeting, and although there wasn't, like, students there at the board, there was a lot of students, like, there was, like, people talking on the board, and they, like, had experience, or they were, like, how do I explain this? They had, like, oh my gosh, I can't think, but you go. I'm trying to think of how to word this.
Well, I mean, I haven't been to a student or a school board meeting, so I feel like it's, like, important, like, that you have. So, like, when you think of that, you can say that. But I mean, from what I, like, experience in our school, I feel like it's not enough. Like, they might. And I definitely think that our school tries, but it's just, like, coming from a student, like, I just feel like I don't know how I would, like, really talk to someone and, like, express my opinions.
I'm, like, struggling on how to word it.
Like, did they talk about, like, student experience?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, some of the people on the board would, like, talk about what they've heard from students, and, like, they would, like, talk for the students, which I think is great that, like, they were making sure our voices were being heard, but I really hope they stick with the idea that they, like, bring students on to the school board, because I feel like that's the only way that, like, we're going to get our voices heard completely.
Another question was, how have we expressed our voices at school as students? And this is kind of, like, going back to middle school, but something cool that we did in middle school was we had advisory, which was, like, in place of connections, but it was every day. And there was like student leadership advisories, which were, I was in like the environmental club student leadership. And I just thought that was a cool idea because we were able to like speak out as students over like topics like the environment, which is like important to me as a student. So it was cool that I got to like speak out about that and like be in a club with people who were also interested in that. And I remember there was like a few other ones, and it was just like cool because like it really felt like they cared, and we did like, it wasn't like we did a ton, but there was definitely projects that made me feel like I was helping and able to like express my opinions and stuff. So I feel like it would be cool to like implement something like that in the high school. Like I don't know how we would necessarily do it because we only have connections once a week, but something like that with like an option for students to like engage in like different topics and like talk with other people who are interested in that, and like together build a consensus of like doing something that helps whatever like ideas that they have like actually be heard. Okay, and then one of our last questions is, what is an expert opinion of how we get quote unquote there? Like how do we get to the point where students have their voices being heard? I feel like more like, I mean, I don't want to say that being able to express student voice is creating more work for students, because I feel like students would not like that. But at the same time, like if it's just like an option, a lot of students aren't going to take that option because they don't have time. So I feel like doing more stuff in Connections where student voice is heard, like Connections could be super useful if we actually like did stuff in it. I feel like it's mostly just like boring talk and like just like, and a lot of teachers don't do the actual connection stuff, which like some students like are really happy about, me being one of them. Just because it's like it's a time to do your homework and stuff. But I feel like instead we could use Connections and turn it around to be like something really useful where students had activities that help them express their voice, because I'm sure not all the students would be super happy about that and want to like go up on the offer to express their voice, but I feel like it could be really useful even if we just got 1, 2, 3, like 10 student opinions on like an issue in school. It could be super helpful, because if we had the option to do something like that in Connections, it would like help more students to see it, and like more students be likely to do it, whether like instead of just like an email being sent out, like fill out this form if you have an opinion. A lot of students wouldn't do that, but if it was something that was being like introduced to them and talked to them about in Connections, more students would be likely to do that.
I agree. I think that's a great point. I feel like Connections is like we're not using it to our full advantage right now, and I think a great way to use it is like what you said, just like trying to get student voices out there. Like if there's a decision coming up, possibly maybe like during Connections being like, what are your thoughts on this, and like what do you think, what factors should go into this decision, I don't know, that type of thing. And like so then students who like really want to make sure their voices get heard will respond to that, and if students don't respond to it, then they can't complain, I guess.
Yeah, and obviously we're just 2 students. We don't know how like likely all these things are to happen, how possible all these things are, but I feel like even if we just got like student voices on how to really implement more student voice, even that would be helpful.
Yeah.
Because I just feel like, I know I'm bringing like middle school, elementary school stuff into this, but I just feel like at the middle school it might have been easier because it was like smaller classes. Like students were more like fresh out of elementary school wanting to like speak their voice more. But we also did like student-led conferences and stuff. And I feel like obviously like a lot of our parents don't go to conferences and stuff. But I just feel like there could be so much more that we like, so much more stuff that we could be doing that we're not.
Thank you for joining us.
We'd like to thank WeVideo for providing the music.
Until next time, we'll see you later.
All right, perfect. Thank you. Wasn't so bad, was it?
That was fun.